Hi, I'm Jean Hoban. I'm the Marketing Communications Director for Benjamin Rose Institute on Aging, and wanted to thank everyone for joining us today for Racial Equity Perspectives on Delivery of OAA Programs. The program is co-sponsored by Benjamin Rose with our partners at the National Association of Nutrition and Aging Services Programs. This program is being recorded, as you just heard, and we will share the link with all of you in an email in the next couple of days. And feel free to share that with any colleagues who did not join us today. We will also be sending a short survey after the program in that email, and appreciate your feedback to help us improve future programs and to continue today's discussion. We have a lot of information to cover in the next hour and a half or so, and we will hold all questions until after our panel discussion, after all of our panelists have presented, and then open the floor to Q&A and audience. A little different than our usual traditional webinars. We really want to get a dialogue started. So you can submit questions at any time using the chat box, which is in the panel on the right of your screen. And now I will introduce our first speakers, Bob Blancato from Matz, Blancato and Associates, the Director of NANASP, and Meredith Ponder, Vice President of Matz, Blancato and Associates, and Policy and Advocacy Director of NANASP. While I'm putting up their slides.
So thank you very much, Jean. I say welcome to everyone and a good day to everyone, and thank everyone for joining this important webinar. I'm Bob Blancato, as mentioned, Executive Director of NANASP. And NANASP is proud to partner on this webinar with the Benjamin Rose Institute on Aging, a 110-year-old Cleveland-based nonprofit organization whose mission is to advance support for older adults and caregivers. Their CEO and President, Edwin L, will join the program shortly. Let me thank Jean Hoban for her and Bria's Marketing and Communications Director for her help on this webinar. Thank all the panelists for their participation on this day. Our title is Racial Equity Perspectives on Delivery of Older Americans Act Programs. This is a topic both our organizations felt deserved to be discussed in light of the current national dialogue on racial equity. We don't come with any preconceived notions, but with a goal in mind to assess whether we are doing as well as we can in achieving racial equity in the delivery of Older Americans Act programs and services. Where we are, what can we learn from best practices? Where we are not, how can we do better? In advance of this webinar, our two organizations sent out a survey, and we benefited greatly from the more than 35 individuals who responded. And now to present some of the top line findings, I turn it over to Meredith Whitmer, our Policy and Advocacy Director for NANASP.
Thank you, Bob. So as stated, I'm going to be presenting the survey results. Next slide. So the first question we asked of our participants was, does targeting work? And we got some mixed results. On these slides, I have provided some examples of results that we received. I'm not going to read them out loud because there's a lot of text here, but it's interesting to see the varied perspectives that folks had. Next slide. So we also had mixed results on the question, do our services reflect the growth of minority populations? Some folks felt that it did, and some folks felt that it does not. I think one point in particular here is that there cannot be a one-size-fits-all. I think that's a very salient point. So next slide. Do services need to be tailored for minority older adults? Again, very mixed perspectives here. I think, honestly, that is one of the more fascinating results of the survey, in that, you know, everyone across the country has very different perspectives on this. And it's been pretty fascinating, honestly, to read the results. We, just so you know, are not releasing full survey results. Some of them come with names attached, and we didn't think it would be appropriate to release results with names attached. So, but we will be able to share the slides afterward so that you are not frantically jotting these down. Next slide. So this was one of the questions that was a multiple choice numeric option. And you can see there's pretty even distribution among the answers here as to what percentage of program participants are minorities. Next slide. And many respondents are working to increase the number of minority participants. Some are doing DEI training, hiring bilingual staff, partnering with other organizations. Next slide. So this is a pretty similar result. What percentage of your staff are minorities? Very, very, mixed across different areas. Next slide. And again, many are working to increase the number of minority staff. That was a very consistent theme. So we were pleased to see that. Next slide. This is not exactly a finding that we were, very pleased with. The percentage of leadership and or board as minorities. And as you can see here, the vast majority of respondents said that 0 to 25% of their leadership are minorities. Next slide. However, almost all programs that responded are working to increase leadership diversity. So again, DEI projects, having current board members reach out to their colleagues, using board profile tools, so there was a range of answers there. Next slide. This was an interesting finding. Does socialization bring older adults of diverse backgrounds together? The question more specifically asked about cliques and whether, whether the finding is that older adults are socializing together or in cliques. And this was very mixed results. As you can see here on the slide, it very much depends on the community, it seems. Next slide. And we also asked if participants thought that discrimination exists in their program. I think one very good point here that was made is that majority of programs are not racist, but they need to be anti-racist. And that's a finding that, I think is pretty generally applicable and that I know our participants are going to be hitting on today. Next slide. Then we asked about discrimination in the community. And again, pretty mixed answers here. Next slide. And then we asked if folks had any other thoughts. And we thought these in particular were really good. One is a little longer than the other, but I think that the final point made here is pretty important, that equity can be fun, that this is not a chore, this is not drudgery, this is, it is fun to include everyone. So that's the end of the survey findings.
So we found that process to be extremely interesting, novel, and we commend those who took the time to respond. This is a delicate subject, and we feel that we're educating by providing this information, and we hope that you will find the same in what we provided in that summary that Meredith just did.